Good afternoon to you. Mark Sutt with HurricaneTrack.com here. Hurricane Outlook and discussion time. It is now, about 12:46 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm in Arizona dealing with the monsoon out here. I came out to track and study the monsoon. Yes, I'm missing Hurricane Hanna along the Texas coast, but, it wasn't forecast to be a hurricane in time for me to have left. I've already been over this. I'm missing it. Even Michael Jordan missed a few basketball games in his career. That's all I'm going to say about that. So the more important thing, though, is not necessarily that I am there, in that we need to talk about the tropics here, try to keep you guys up to date. That's the other part about what I do and what you depend on me for. So let's take a look at things, shall we? First, Gonzalo racing now through parts of the Windward Islands here, the southern windwards. Trinidad, Tobago, the worst is probably over by now. The vorticity, the energy with it is stretching out, and that's really going to be the end of the story for Gonzalo. It just didn't have the umph to make it. That's a word there, UMPH, and it looked like it might have a chance in the Caribbean, but these July storms, this is usually what happens, especially with a smaller envelope of energy. That being said, though, it did bring some showers and storms and some gusty winds. Two portions of the southern windwards there, even the north coast of South America over here, kind of rare to see that. And all of that energy now propagating on off into the southeast Caribbean. We'll watch and see, of course. You never say never, but it doesn't look good in terms of any future prospects of Gonzalo making a comeback. The next item that we're going to really need to be paying attention to after Hanna, and that's going to be happening in pretty short order here, and that is Hurricane Douglas approaching the Hawaiian Islands out here. Maybe a little bit of good news, as I alluded to in my earlier update that I recorded in the wee hours of the morning. It might go just north of the islands. If we can get this to come on the north side of the guidance envelope and the cone of uncertainty, as they call it, that would be some good news. But as it stands now, the blue areas, tropical storm warnings with a hurricane watch in the pink, and this now encompasses, and a tropical storm watch even for the farther west island over there. What is that, Kauai, I believe? All the islands are under some kind of a watch or warning, and as we look at the infrared loop, it's not quite on the floater here that Levi Cowan has set up on Tropical Tidbits. We cannot quite see Hawaii in the satellite loop just yet, and you can see with Douglas, though, it's definitely weakened going over cooler waters, but structurally there's nothing wrong with it. You know what I'm saying? It's not really having any shear issues. This is a thermodynamics deal right here, and that means water temperatures being cooler where Douglas is traversing are just going to gradually weaken it as though you were starving. Like if you just quit eating, you'd gradually fade out and die, right? And that's what's happening with this. It's not going to be able to feed off of warm ocean temperatures because they're not very prevalent until, and this is interesting here, it gets a little bit more to the west. Douglas currently going through this area, but this area, this green here, is the 26 Celsius isotherm. 26 Celsius is roughly 80 degrees Fahrenheit, just shy of it. And so Douglas is moving across some cooler water temperatures now, but they're actually going to increase again as it approaches Hawaii. And that could make it hold on a little bit longer. 75, 80 mile per hour hurricane coming in across this region, that's really rare to see. So this is going to be a big impact event. And if we look real quick at the geography of the area, you got the island of Hawaii, and then as you move on to the west, these different areas, Molokai, Maui, Honolulu here on Oahu, and then over in Kauai. Kauai is where, of course, if I'm not mistaken, they filmed Jurassic Park back in 1992. Hurricane Aniki came across, and that's usually what we see with hurricanes that are impactful, is they come across like this from the south. With Douglas coming across at this angle, it's a little bit different. And again, I'm most concerned about any upslope flow here on the northeast sides, the wet side of these islands. But as I've also alluded to, as that circulation comes across those bands, and we'll be able to see that on radar tomorrow, that could bring some rain on these leeward sides of these islands, and that's not typically where you get it, you know? So this is going to be a big problem, big surf coming, a rare kind of event. You don't get that many hurricanes in Hawaii, and here we go, just 2020 being 2020 again, I guess, and we'll certainly look at this closer tomorrow. All right, so now, of course, the big story is Hanna. Not the most impressive satellite view, but the eye is clearing out. You can see right there, so anybody that's down here, news media and other chasers, you're going to get a fairly clear eye. It's a large eye and a large sprawling, kind of a messy looking hurricane on satellite, but this radar presentation tells a really different story. Fantastic tool here that Mark Nissenbaum at Florida State University has put together to track this, and you can see that the eye is getting just a little bit more defined, a little bit smaller, compact. That is the tightening that these typically do when they reach the coast. Frictional effects kind of tighten that up, and this will probably continue to strengthen all the way to landfall. A rare thing to see. Most hurricanes tend to weaken right before landfall. But you know what is interesting, and I'm pointing this out, it's very serious to note. Since 2016, the hurricanes that have approached the United States, for the most part, have intensified. Matthew intensified all the way up until it got just off of Florida. Then it started to weaken. But even before Matthew, Hermine intensified all the way to landfall into the Big Bend area. Remember, 2017 was a little bit different, except Nate tried to intensify, and then it kind of fell apart before landfall. But you certainly had some very intense hurricanes, with Irma making landfall at peak intensity across the Virgin Islands in that region, and certainly Barbuda before that. Not the United States specifically. We saw Irma fall apart. But look at 2018. Michael, Cat 5 landfall all the way up to, at the point of landfall, still strengthening. 2019, Dorian strengthening just before reaching Florida. My point is, we've been in this trend where the hurricanes seem to be intensifying closer to land, not just the United States, but that's concerning. And Hanna here doing the same kind of thing before landfall down in Texas. And we're going to look at some geography here, give you an idea of where this is. Corpus Christi, just so you know, is right there. Here's the Houston area, Galveston over here. So for this, the most part, you're done. Maybe a few straggling rain showers coming in, kind of breezy through there. But down the coast, through the coastal bend, you know, you're getting tropical storm to hurricane conditions. And it's just a matter of where the core comes in and where these bands set up. So areas with direct onshore flow, that's where the surge will be the greatest. 3, 5, 6, 7 feet above ground level possible, depending on the terrain and exactly where this makes landfall. Very difficult to know, because, you know, Texas is a big state. So let's look at that real quick. What's what? Well, here's Corpus. Get it right here. Here's Corpus Christi, and I'm not too worried about your area any longer. Certainly as the wind comes across in this direction. Let me use red here to make this pop a little better. As those onshore winds come in from this direction, it'll pile up the water in some of these areas, sure, but the bulk of the storm surge will be felt farther to the south, where the core comes in. And remember, it looks like that the track is going to be, let's go back over here so we can pull up the track map, just south of west when this makes landfall. So it's going to be kind of moving to the, there we go, to the south of west. Okay, so if we go back to the radar, we can see a little bit of evidence of that, dipping just slightly. It's not going quite 270. See, it's moving just a little bit south. 270 is due west. So slightly south of west. So really it's this area right in here that's going to get the worst of that storm surge, south of Corpus Christi towards Baffin Bay. So let's zoom in. So the southern part of Baffin Bay, through here, storm surge will be the greatest. The water will actually get pushed out of this area. Riviera Beach, Loyola Beach, The water could pile up back into this area as it gets pushed in. And then these barrier islands out here, Padre Island, the storm surge coming in right off the Gulf of Mexico. But there's not a lot of people out there, if any. Okay? This is the traffic map, if you will. This is what the satellite picture map looks like, courtesy of our friends at Google. This is so neat that we can do this. But this really gives you an idea. It's not very populated, so that's good. That's not to say that there's no people and that there won't be impacts. There certainly will. Port Mansfield, I'm a little bit worried about this area, a little bit more of a population region. What they call this the lagoon area. Back east we would call it the Intracoastal Waterway, but I guess that's not what they call it in Texas. But this, what is it called? It's the Laguna Madre. See, that's what I thought. Port Mansfield, the surge coming in off of there, but not a very big fetch of water. But nevertheless, definitely would be a little bit more concerned for Port Mansfield along 186 and then into Raymondville. I've gone through this area several times on my way to the Tropical Weather Conference down in South Padre. And then maybe as you get south towards Harlingen, more impacts. But it's really these smaller towns, Armstrong, Norris, Rudolph, Iteria, I guess that's how you say it, Baffin Bay, Point South. And then we really have to worry about, and I'm really concerned, areas along the Rio Grande, maybe as far west as McAllen, Westlaco, however you say it, Westlaco, something. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. But all along 269E, the Rio Grande Valley, 1 point something million people, whatever it is, 1.2, 1.5 million live in this area. Big farming area, big migrant area of people that come out of Mexico to work, and they are not as prepared for hurricanes. All right, we need to understand that, and this is going to dip south after landfall across this area. So I see the potential here for major impacts from flooding rain and people also dealing with this COVID-19 situation, a high concentration of sick folks down in that area. Unfortunately, we have to deal with this. Can't just say it's not happening. There's nothing we can do about it now. It's just up to fate at this point. But this is a very serious situation. And I'm going to point out as well, not trying to besmirch anyone, but this was not forecast to be a hurricane even 48 hours ago. And now it's making landfall as a strengthening hurricane. We have to do better in the modeling of intensity, because this is going to keep happening, and eventually you're going to get one of these to go into a place like Tampa. This is bad enough. What's going to be happening down in the Rio Grande area and certainly up towards Baffin Bay, where it'll take the brunt of that intensifying hurricane. But 48 hours ago, the Euro was showing it intensifying. That's a global model. And some of the other models were hinting at it, but the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center, and I'm just pointing out the science here, and they recognize it themselves. That's what I'm saying. I'm not blaming or making a big stink about it. The modeling has to do better. We've got to put more effort, because here we go. We're seeing the results of this now. And to my point, the GFS now picking up on it. 980 is what it's showing on the pressure field there. This is the 12Z run, which is still coming in right now. Actually, I guess it's just about finished. And you can see that it comes in, dips to the south there, south of west, moves inland, and into that Rio Grande Valley area. So yes, McAllen points east down towards Harlingen and maybe even Brownsville, but it's really the Rio Grande Valley going upriver, up the Grand Valley there. Big, big problems, and this is going to be a big newsmaker, and we're going to see loss of life, unfortunately. The power outages, people on ventilators, etc., this is not a good situation. Seriously. It is not just a coastal problem. Oh, okay, let's see what's happening at the coast. I know it's fascinating to see the webcams. If I was there, I would have set some up, sure. But you want to be down in the Rio Grande Valley and dealing with that? That's a big disaster in the making. You mark my words. All right, what else is coming? I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we got to face it, like I said, and at least we have experience with hurricanes. I mean, dealing with the hurricanes and the pandemic, we knew it might be happening, and did anybody think that it would be South Texas? I didn't, but here it is. All right, looking forward, this is the next area we need to watch. Right here, Invest area 92L, GFS model here. And, it's starting to pick up on it, so we will excuse it for totally missing the intensification of Hanna for now anyway. So moving on out, 24 hours, this is Sunday morning, finally out to Monday morning, and 92L starting to organize here in the open central Atlantic, the tropical Atlantic, finally at 72 hours. Probably a named storm by that point, if the GFS is correct. And look at another large area of energy coming, and another one behind that over Africa. Wow, going to be very, very busy in the days and weeks ahead. We knew this was coming, so no surprises. 96 hours. Look, this is perfectly set up. Looks like a fish, doesn't it? Right there. That ridge, very well defined, all the way across the Atlantic here. This is going to trug and track, right? Chug across the Atlantic, heading towards the islands by day 5, and then day 6, and then day 7. This gives you an idea, not to worry about it just yet, but the models are showing, the Euro, the GFS, others, that 92L will likely develop and could very well impact the Lesser Antilles as a whole. U.S., British Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico may be in play. So start thinking about your situation. Do you have to deal with somebody at home that maybe has some COVID-19 problems? You got to figure this stuff out now. You got a few days on top of your average hurricane preparedness stuff that you'd be doing in any given year if there was no pandemic. This is just ridiculous. Who ever thought that we would be talking about this? But we have to address it. We'll watch and see. I'll be focusing on this more and more. Even though I'm in Arizona, I still have the laptop, and I can be of service, even though I'm not in Texas. And you know what? Sure, it's great to track these hurricanes. That's what I do for a job. But I don't know if I want to be down there during all this today, especially that remote area of Texas. Tough to say. You miss some, but like I said, even the greats sometimes have an off game. Hanna beat me. Next play, we move on. All right, have a great rest of your Saturday. As always, thanks for tuning in and listening to me, hearing what I've got to say. I hope I'm helpful. I'm on Twitter at HurricaneTrack, YouTube, HurricaneTrack. It's all the HurricaneTrack brand. And I'm proud to say, supported by awesome people on crowdfunding, Patreon support. It's just incredible. Check it out, patreon.com/HurricaneTrack, and join the modern era. That's what we're in. Our hurricane coverage, what we do, it's incredible. So anyway, thanks for your support. I appreciate it. Again, have a great rest of your Saturday. I was just trying to think if there's anything else I had to add. I will be traveling the next couple of days, but I will be doing these updates. I am Mark Sudduth. Thanks for watching. Talk to you again tomorrow.